Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Alright, you ungovernable misfits. I'm your host, Max. Everybody knows that Bitcoin is useless, worthless, and doomed to fail. But what if everyone's wrong? What if it's the system that is doomed to fail? Join me as I speak to some of the brightest people in the space and slither to the deepest, darkest depths of the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I'm a little tired of the drama, the bullshit, the attention whores, and the fakery in Bitcoin at the moment. So I needed a break from it, and what better break than to get people who are actually building, who actually care about privacy and freedom. In case any of you have forgotten, that is why we are here at the end of the day, to break away from the control, the theft, and the lies. Today's conversation is with Zelko and Samourai. These are people that I have a huge amount of respect for. They are running projects that actually matter, that help people transact, that help people stay private and secure. In today's episode, we talked about Sentinel. We talked about the history of it, why it's here, and where it's going. I've been testing Sentinel for the last week or so, and I've been really impressed. If you haven't already tried it, I'm pretty sure you will do after this conversation, and for anyone who has any questions after this, we will be running a spaces that people can jump on, and you could also reach out and DM me. It's late here, so we're going to start the show very soon. I just wanted to say a few thank yous. Firstly, to everyone who's been sharing this show with friends and family. A thank you to Samourai, Zelko, and the whole team for making such incredible software, for joining me on this show, and also for creating a code for any of my listeners who would like to buy a Tanto to get a discount, and for this show to be supported at the same time. If you go to RoninDojo.com and use the code ungovernable, you will get a discount, this show will be supported, and everyone is a winner. Also, a reminder for anyone who's been living under a rock, Ungovernable Misfits has released a new clothing line. I have to say I am proud of this. Me and Mr. Crown have worked very hard on this. We have made sure that this is part of the Bitcoin circular economy, and we have gone to great lengths to make sure that this is of the highest quality. We've also made a Privacy Defenders hoodie and t-shirt in collaboration with Samourai and RoninDojo. So if you haven't already, then go to ungovernablemisfits.com and check it out. I will put links in the show notes as well. And finally, before we start the show, a huge thank you to my show sponsors. Without you, this show would not be able to continue. I'm very lucky to have sponsors who support me despite knowing that I'd be shilling their products regardless. It really is great to have the support of both these sponsors without having to sell the soul of the show. Let's start with Foundation Devices. Foundation Devices make my favourite hardware. Not only do they have an incredible team, but they keep things fully open source. They have QR code scanning for PSBTs, full colour display, and everything that you would want from a hardware device. It is piss easy to use. This really is a cypherpunk tool for fuckwits. And we get into this a little bit in the show. Samourai and many others are adamant that nobody needs a hardware wallet. And to some extent, I agree. But I don't like to keep all my eggs in one basket. and I suggest to anyone that I care about to do the same. I do not feel 100% confident generating keys in an offline manner on a device that has the ability to access the internet. To me, a fuckwit, I would rather have a team building a purpose-built solution that is fully open source and simple to use. If you're in the same boat and you just want something that works out the box, this is it. So go to foundationdevices.com, ask them any questions. You can use the code ungovernable to let them know that I've sent you, and you can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I will answer them openly and honestly. I use this stuff, I love it, and that is why I have them as a sponsor. Check them out at foundationdevices.com. And finally, and very quickly, sx6.store. No, it's not a porn site. This is my good friend Black Coffee. He's selling something that is very simple, and all of you should be using, in my opinion. He's selling stainless steel backup plates. These are to stamp your seed into, rather than writing this down on a bit of paper that you could lose or could burn or get wet or whatever else. Stamping it into marine grade steel will survive floods, almost all fires, and pretty much everything else. You can get these from £16.99. It really isn't a huge investment to make sure you keep your Bitcoin safe. And again, if you have any questions about this, you can reach out to me. Go to sx6.store and use the code ungovernable. Are we all in?
Oh shit, hang on.
You were in the green room for fucking ages.
Test.
Yep, got you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
Nice.
First time for everything.
I don't see
You don't see the sound waves?
no sound waves at all, but I believe you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see them.
It's glitchy, shitty software. I don't know why it does it, but I've got you. It's recording. And it will record locally as well, so if we have
Yeah, I
any
see
issues,
that.
we all
Yeah.
got it. Well, nice to have you both back on. We've not done this before, all three of us, have we?
I don't think I've ever done one with Zelko.
Yeah, I'm not normally allowed to.
You've got off lightly. How have you avoided that? I've had to have him on the show at least 2 or 3 times.
I don't know. I was starting to take offense.
You're intimidating. That red wallet's really...
He's mean, isn't he?
He's super mean.
Well, I could chat to you both literally for the entire evening about everything privacy and Bitcoin related. But what I wanted to do today, with your permission, is to do something a little bit different and keep this short and sweet rather than go through all the different topics. There's one thing that I really wanted to cover. I've realized I'm in a particularly privileged position where when I fuck things up, which is very often, I can pick up a phone and I get help. I'd like to do something where we really dig into one topic and then have people be able to jump in on a spaces down the line. And the thing that I'm really fucking impressed with at the moment, and I've been playing around with today, is Sentinel. So if it's cool with you two, can we jump straight into it?
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do, for anyone who hasn't looked into Sentinel or played around with it, maybe do a bit of an overview of what it is, why it's here. Maybe Samurai, you can jump on that one.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to go back to like the roots of Sentinel, or like as it is today in 5.0?
No, let's
Okay.
go back to the beginning and then where we are now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Sentinel was originally conceived as a way to, so Samurai Wallet existed already, but it was totally private and it was only available to like a group of 50 to 75 people. So it was a real closed alpha. And what we wanted to test, user interface concepts. We were doing things that are different than any wallet was doing at the time. in regards to user interface and how a user would interact with a Bitcoin wallet. We wanted to test those concepts and theories with a group that were larger than 75 people, but without the risk of private keys. So we're like, well, a watch-only wallet would be a perfect way to do this. There's no risk. We can't screw up any transaction signing. We can't screw up anything. It's all display only. So Sentinel, up until the latest version that you have just played around with, was really like the original version of Samurai Wallet in terms of look and feel. That was the goal with Sentinel. And then, things took off with Samurai. We realized that, yes, we were successful in user interface. Yes, people liked interacting with a wallet this way. And we opened up testing to a wider group. So Sentinel kind of became like the redheaded stepchild of the stack. We just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to continue iterating on it, improving it. So it just kind of sat there. It worked. It did what it was supposed to do, which was provide a watch-only experience for Bitcoin addresses or XPubs, et cetera, like that. It was only recently that we actually had some more bandwidth that we were able to dedicate the love and attention to make Sentinel even better than watch-only, which is where we're at today. And now it's more like it can be a full wallet, right? It doesn't have private keys still, but you can compose transactions. You can do all the things that you can do with a Bitcoin wallet using Sentinel.
Okay, so that brings us up to today. And to be honest with you, until a few weeks ago, my view of Sentinel was, without being rude, I was like, I just don't really see the point for me. I didn't really see why I would ever use it. And then I had a chat with a couple of people and started to dig into what it does. And it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like, it pretty much does now for me what my Sparrow was doing. I have a separate laptop that I use just for using my Sparrow and anything Bitcoin-y. And I'm now thinking, like, I don't really fucking need it. It does everything I was using it for, and I wasn't aware that this was possible. And then it made me think, well, really all someone needs now for like a really fucking nice cold storage setup and being able to track everything and do PSBT and do all the different stuff. I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit here, but I'm looking at it, I'm thinking you could have like just 2 old pixels running graphene or something similar, and you are fucking good to go.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put any Bitcoin related stuff on a laptop personally. I just don't do it. I don't think computers are secure at all, general PCs, even Linux-based PCs. You don't have the same security model that you do on an Android or an iPhone, where everything is sandboxed.
Okay.
So I just don't that's the way I've always interacted with Bitcoin. It's been from a mobile first perspective. And just to jump back to, you didn't see the use case for Sentinel originally. As soon as you have to manage more than one wallet, you get the use case, right? So if I have a Samurai wallet, our company, quote unquote, company funds, that's one wallet that I have to manage. And then I have my own personal Bitcoin wallet that I like to manage. And then I have, a different Samurai wallet that belongs to the company that I like to manage. So that's 3 wallets now. All of that could be watched with Sentinel. You could generate receive addresses to deposit with Sentinel, this prior to the update. So the use case has always been there. We've just made it even more useful now because, as you say, you can do the PSBTs, you can make transactions, you can view UTXOs, all the things that it was, the original Sentinel was missing, not because we didn't think of it, just because we didn't have the time to do it.
And so with basically having a couple of phones and then linking that to your node, you are in a very, very good spot. You don't need any extra equipment. Oh, fucking hell.
Shit, sorry. I don't know what happened there. Am I back?
Yeah, what was that, your private jet or something?
That was the dock that I have plugged into the fucking computer. Just died for half a second. And that may happen again, so your editing will be needed.
Oh, Jesus. From like a more like normie thing of why I have always been pushing Sentinel, even before the 5.0 update, but like I think watch wallets were so like underappreciated. And I'd been using Sentinel almost since the beginning of my like Samurai time. Like I was probably like 6 months after I started with Samurai that I saw someone talk about Sentinel. And then there was that weird like forked version that was really cool. I can't remember
Sentinel
what
X.
is Sentinel X. That was pretty cool. Black mode or dark mode, whatever you want to call it. But the big use case, especially for like normies, right? I think like the typical path for whatever reason that we see a lot of people when they start to listen to podcasts and listen to like the Bitcoin Twitter spaces. Okay, well, first get Bitcoin, right? By whatever means. We all know that that's not necessarily the best advice, but they say, get the Bitcoins, get them off the exchange, put them in a hardware wallet, right? So like if those people had just from that bad starting point, but nonetheless, it's a reality, right? If they were using something like Sentinel, they'd be able to just generate a new address like that, super easy, and be able to see how much funds, track their stuff. Like you don't need to plug in your Trezor, you don't need to plug in your Ledger, whatever hardware wallet that they want to use. Moving forward, as you get more advanced into Bitcoin, you start to realize it's not that hard to do different things. Like over the October timeframe, like with Sentinel coming out, I was like, let me just go through a new Pixel phone and do a completely cold storage offline setup, connect it to my dojo and everything else. And it was flawless, super easy. And like, it's cool to see this app actually start to grow and develop.
Yeah, I think I was one of them, so I'm not slagging people off here. I think people are missing how important it is. And I think there is a big sell on, like you said, you have to go and buy hardware specifically, and you have to go and spend all this money on all this stuff. And it's like, not really. You don't really. You can go and run one of these on a Pixel 3a. You get them for like 50 quid over here. You can be very secure. I would push people.
Absolutely.
I probably push people like friends and family now. You should probably spend your money on a node first. Make sure that you're trying to keep yourself private, and then just run that on a fucking Pixel. And then if you really want to upgrade and you want to have a hardware wallet in the future, then that's cool. But like, it's being shilled to people who have got like, you got a few $100s and it's like, oh, go and spend another couple of $100s on fucking hardware. It's like, no, this is not necessary. It really isn't.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Samurai has 0 hardware wallets. All of our Bitcoin is in a Samurai wallet or a couple Samurai wallets. Mm-hmm. I personally don't have any hardware wallets other than the ones that are in my desk drawer and have never been used other than, one time to test it out. The era of Bitcoiner that I am, there was one hardware wallet at the time. It was Trezor, and you had to plug it in to your computer to use it, which is outrageous and, not a chance. So, hardware wallets never were a thing to me. And in fact, I would argue they're such a distraction and an abstraction. They're recommended because the people that are recommending them don't transact. As soon as you have to start transacting, they're a nightmare to work with. It's a massive pain in the ass.
I think it depends a little bit. Like, I'll push back slightly. For someone like me, I'm not technical enough to know enough of like what is true and what isn't true, if that makes sense. So when you hear people fear-mongering about, phones are insecure and this can happen and that can happen and whatever the fear is that people are putting out there, for someone like me, I'm like, all right, I listen to what Zelko and Samurai say. They obviously know what they're talking about. But I also listen to other people who know what they're talking about and will go for hardware. So my approach is always like, look, I don't fucking know. Everything I've ever worked for my whole life is in Bitcoin. So the approach I take is, I will just put not all my eggs in one basket. I use my Samurai wallet for all my spending and mixing and all that stuff. And then I have a little bit in cold storage, which I've generated keys offline.
But you don't need a hardware wallet for that. You can generate keys offline without a hardware wallet. And that's my point. Now the narrative is, oh, well, a hardware wallet's not about seed generation, which is a lie. It's always been about seed generation with a hardware wallet. So now it's not about that. It's about transaction signing. Well, no, because PSBTs are kind of new. They're not that, they've been around now, since 2018, something like that.
Yep.
So hardware wallets predate PSBTs, and hardware wallets were never about transaction signing, ever. It was about seed generation. Okay, well, you don't need a hardware wallet to create a seed. You can do that with Dice if you're really paranoid. You can do that with the Samurai wallet offline mode. You can do that with Sparrow. You can do it with anything.
Yeah, I quite like the approach I've seen where like either the dice rolls or having all of the different words in a hat and then mixing and
Right.
picking them
Yes.
out.
All of these are valid ways to create seeds. And it's just like, okay, fine. You build hardware, you have a hardware wallet. That's cool. That's great. And there's people out there who, like you said, they don't know. They're worried, this and that. And that's a solution for them because, it's wrapped up with a bow around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're counting on. Like, oh, people don't know. So they're going to spend $200 on a piece of plastic to do something they can do with a dice or words written on a page and thrown into a hat. And okay, fine, cool. But you don't need it. It's totally unnecessary.
I agree. It's unnecessary. And I've realized that more and more as for one thing, I've been using the majority of everything I have is on Samurai, and it has been for years now.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I would shit myself a lot and I'd have problems connecting to a node and then I'd have to wipe it and restore it. And I must have done that 50 times, like, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because I've done it so many times, I'm like, hang on a minute. This $50 phone that I've got in my drawer has worked really fucking well and it's simple to use and it's been secure.
And almost everyone has one. Almost everyone
exactly.
has a phone that they don't need it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, an old phone is perfect. And so friends and family now, I just suggest that's what you do. You run one of these things, you put Samurai on it and you're good to go. And you don't have to fuck around and then have some separate software that you're plugging into or messing around with because it's just an extra layer of stress. And I think that's the thing is like, I want people who are listening to have the most simple and secure way. And I am thinking, well, spend the money on a node if you have to. If you want to spend some money on a node and then use Sentinel and use Samurai. It's fucking simple. You don't have to do anything else. Like I set my Sentinel up and I'm tracking my wallets and doing all the stuff I need to do. It's beautiful. I did it in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And
like,
we're going to make it even easier. Sorry,
yeah.
Zelko.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, like, the cool part for people that want to do the like, hey, I want to have a savings wallet and a spending wallet, however you want to do it. It kind of goes into like my whole thought process with the mix to Xpub stuff, and that's where like in combination with Sentinel. And just from the view, one, you're going to be able to track all that stuff. You could be mixing it to your cold storage, see that collect and add up and see what your balance is at. And if it's an offline Samurai wallet, you could even mix it to Postmix because it's going to be pool size ready. And then if you ever bring that phone online and you're like, hey, I'm ready to spend it, it's going to go right back into Whirlpool. There's so many cool options that we have. And that's like why I got a gentle nudge to make sure that this happens on in Ronin. And that's what I'm super excited about, just being able to continue to be able to serve the people in a way that like makes sense. Cause I do the same thing. Like I'm not one of those people that I try to add features that I won't use. And mixing to Xpub is something I did that, for my family savings stack,
Mm-hmm.
And I did that when Mix Xpub first came out. It's just one of those things where you're like, hey, you know what? I want this. I want to keep mixing and I want to see my stuff and I'm going to keep it private and gain forward privacy. And now you can have that and you can watch it. And when you're ready, you can make transactions. If you need to jump into that cold storage without coming out, you can create the transaction directly with Sentinel. Sign it with the cold storage device, that Pixel phone, and then broadcast it and you're good to go. It's pretty amazing. It really does make for a full stack.
It does. The experience that I had today was really impressive. It was clean. So I've been using Sparrow to track everything for a long time. And I love Sparrow. It's great. But the experience that I had today was much cleaner. The UX is cleaner. Having everything just in my hand on a phone, tracking everything, there's something really nice about it. One little thing that I was like, this is the one thing that still ties me to using Sparrow is the labeling. And I spoke to someone today who was like, it's coming, it's going to be there. Is that something that's like going to be there, but in a few years? Or is it something that like...
That's a fair question, Max. So it's actually coded already. It just needs some UI. So no, it won't be a few years. I'm not sure if it's in the next version or version after that or where it's at, but it's not in a few years. No, it will be.
Okay.
The one thing is, look, it's a kind of a two-part thing. Craig wrote, is it BIP 329? Is that his labeling BIP?
I
think
know.
It is something like that.
I'll find out.
And it's a great BIP. We pretty much coded it up immediately. as soon as it was proposed by him. It's simple and it's elegant and makes sense. The issue is all it defines is a format for saving labels. Okay. Samurai wallet, you may have multiple phones with the same Samurai wallet on it. You may be using the phone and the desktop GUI from Whirlpool. You may are using Sentinel as well, so you have your wallet on, let's say, 3 devices at this point. How do you share the metadata? How do you share those labels across 3 devices without manually having to do it every time you load up the wallet? So that's where the sticking point is, and that's what we've been trying to solve for, and that's where we've been working on. And we do have a solution for it, and I think it's a very elegant solution.
Okay.
So yes, so we will have labeling in Sentinel once we can share label data from Samurai to Sentinel in a secure manner.
I see. For the other wallets that you might be tracking, presumably they're not going to be shared, so that's going to be stored locally.
Right.
That would just be a separate bit of code for different wallets, basically. Okay.
Sure. So when I said we're actually going to make it easier just a few moments ago, I don't know, when you set up your Sentinel, did you do it from the XPubs that Sparrow provided, or did you do it from Samurai Wallet?
I did it from both.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I did is I just went and tracked everything that I would normally be tracking, and I added in Samurai onto it as well. So I've got everything on one screen, which is really fucking cool with a balance at the top. It's really slick. But then... Sorry, mate. The one thing I was going to say is... one thing that really... Two things that shat me up today, all right? And one's for you, Samurai, and one's for you, Zelko. This is the feedback of somebody who eats crayons, right? I got really scared today because when I logged in to my Ronin UI, or was going to log in on the local network, went to log in and I saw a big message come up that was basically saying that this is not a secure connection.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And then I asked a couple of people and I was like, smart people, and they're like, don't worry about it. You're an idiot. It's fine. There's a reason for this. Just don't worry about it. You're fine. I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if you had like a little special needs thing at the bottom that said, don't worry, you're fine. I know you're probably panicking, but here's why. Click here if you want to know why. So that was just a little bit of feedback from me where I was like, oh shit, I'm all scared. And then the bit for you, Samurai, where I was all scared is tracking everything in Sentinel. I was like, fucking hell, this is so slick. I can see everything perfect. And then I was like, oh no, the balances aren't right. This isn't correct. And then I was looking through all the different, I think it's 5 different like XPub, YPub, ZPub, whatever. And then I was like, I'm missing all the balances from my paynim. And then I reached out to someone smarter than me and I was like, why is this not working? And they explained, well, because it has to be hot and blah, blah, blah. So can you explain that to me and anyone who might be listening who might get scared and go, oh, fuck, this isn't the right amount if they're using a paynim?
Yeah, sure. So the only way you can derive the addresses for a paynim is through the paynim's private key. And because Sentinel obviously doesn't have access to private keys, it can't derive those addresses. So it doesn't know which addresses to look for balances on. So if you have a UTXO that was created by spending to a paynim, which you clearly did, it won't show up in Sentinel. Sentinel doesn't know about it because it's not part of your XPub. It's a whole different thing.
Okay.
And I just before you move on to grilling Zelko on his security issues,
I'd never grill Zelko.
I will say that really Zelko has no control over this. This is the browser that puts that error message up, and you can't change what it says on there. So you wouldn't be able to put anything that says, "Oh, don't worry." It's just how browsers are these days. But so you had to basically add 5 XPubs to Sentinel from your Samurai wallet, right? We're making that way easier. And we're just going to give you one QR code that you can scan with Sentinel that will import all your Samurai wallet XPubs that are important and required and add it to a Samurai wallet collection, essentially in Sentinel. So instead of having to add, 5 different XPubs manually, you'll just scan one QR code and everything will come over. So we wanted to try to get that in for the first, for the big 5.0. It's just we didn't have enough time. So it's coming, I think in the next update, that one's coming. So it'll be a lot easier for users.
That's pretty amazing. I'm not going to lie. That's news for me. That sounds amazing.
Well, we invented this concept of pairing with a QR code.
Yeah, that is
true. That was Samurai Wallet. We were the first to do that because of Dojo. Yep. So, we're we're big on QR codes. We're big on pairing through that method. I think it's the best thing that we got, basically, because who wants to be farting around with SD cards and shit like that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so much
know.
easier.
Yeah, you scan a QR code.
So if you have your Sentinel already backed by, you've already paired it with your dojo or your RoninDojo, and then you import, it should be, at least to my knowledge, it automatically imports and tracks them if they're not already tracking.
It does.
So you don't have to go back in and go into the Ronin UI and try to import all those XPubs. This automatically does it. And that's a pretty outstanding feature just in and of itself.
Can you explain that again one more time?
Yeah. So through the process of setting up your Sentinel, you say you want to back it by your dojo. You scan your dojo and QR code and Ronin UI. And now it's backed by Dojo as soon as you import an XPub. So you want to add a collection and then you get that from your Samurai wallet, right? It's going to say it's Sparrow or wherever, and it's not being tracked already by your Dojo. It takes care of that whole process for you, right? Nice. So that's a pretty awesome way to actually quickly get your balances up.
Yeah, in the past, it actually was always supposed to work that way. There was just a bug. So in the past, when you added an XPub to Sentinel or imported a new wallet into Samurai, you had to sometimes go into your dojo maintenance tool, add the XPub there before you would see a balance. You probably ran into this yourself at some point because it was a bug for a while. That's been fixed, and now it will automatically import. So you should never really have to log into your dojo maintenance tool unless a problem arises. You shouldn't have to log into it for anything other than maintenance, as the name suggests. It's alpha software, so there was that problem where you had to manually go in and do it, but we solved that in both Samurai and in Sentinel. So it's a lot more seamless now, as you probably experienced today, where your only missing balance was paynims, and we really can't do anything about that.
No, it scared me for a second because I was like, what's happened here? And then, this is what I'm saying though. Luckily, I can always reach out to someone smart and they're very kind with their time. And so for me, I shit myself for like a minute and then someone goes, oh no, this is why. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I don't have to have a heart attack then.
Yeah. And we also talk about it in documentation as well.
Yeah. That was literally the one thing that popped up in terms of this whole process, which is pretty amazing because I normally find a way to fuck things up.
It's not too bad.
The one other query I had on it, which was maybe the way that I added the XPubs, YPubs, ZPubs. You're saying now going forward, you're just going to have one scan and it will do all of them. I added XPub first. And so now when I go into my Samurai tab, or what is it, collection you call it, if I go into my Samurai collection and just go onto the all screen and then I go receive, what it does is it automatically does receive deposit to XPub. So I get a load of numbers at the beginning rather than if I went to a ZPub, I would get
BC1Q.
Yeah. Is there a way around that, or it's just something?
Yeah. We're solving for that in the update that includes the one pairing QR code.
Okay.
What you'll see, it's going to actually work a lot like Samurai Wallet does, where your deposit account, right, which is when you load up your Samurai Wallet, it's the screen with the gray balance as opposed to the screen with the blue one, which is Postmix. Yeah. So we call that the deposit account. That shows you X, Y, and Z pub all in one. And when you go to receive in Samurai Wallet, it defaults to your BC1Q address, which is your Z pub. And if you click on that little advanced toggle, you can change it if you want to, but it defaults to native SegWit, ZPub. And it's going to work the exact same in Sentinel once we have that QR code scan.
Okay.
You'll only see deposit account, which will be a combination of your X, Y, and Z pubs. And when you go to the receive tab, it will be defaulted to your ZPub BC1Q address, and you'll be able to manually change it to a 3 address or a 1 address.
Very nice. The other thing I noticed with this whole setup is how fast it was.
Yeah.
Is this something to do with me running Fulcrum on my dojo?
That will play into it. Also, we've updated the Tor library, which is way faster. So that plays into it as well, especially for dojo users because they have to connect via Tor. And Samurai Wallet hasn't had that update yet. So you'll actually see that loading your balances up in Sentinel is faster than in Samurai. It's because of that Tor library.
Okay.
And that's let me shout out Matthew Nelson, who maintains that Tor library that we use.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
He's a old school Bitcoin user, old school Dojo user. We implemented a Tor library. We were the first to actually embed Tor into a Bitcoin wallet instead of relying on an external app like Orbot or something like that. He saw what we were doing. He was like, that's a good idea. And he made it a million times better. So then we started using his code. He's recently updated this Tor library to the latest version that he's maintaining, and it is blazing fast. So shout out to Matthew.
Shout out Matthew. I don't know you, but shout out Matthew.
Yeah, that guy's an OG.
It was fucking quick.
Yeah, you'll notice for Fulcrum, you'll notice Fulcrum's speed on imports. So when adding an XPub to Sentinel, adding a YPub or ZPub that has like a deep indexes, you'll notice the speed there. That's Fulcrum. And yeah, that's blazing fast.
Yeah. That's the difference. That's like just to compare, like every time that someone spins up Sparrow, right? Sparrow goes back and asks Fulcrum or whatever index you're using to search through all of the XPub, right? That's how it's like recalibrating everything and finding any missed stuff. So it uses it every time versus when you import into Dojo, it does it one time and then it gets that balance. So if you're importing into Dojo, it's gonna do all that. It's gonna find the correct balance, and then from there, it's going to already be in the database, and it's not going to need to rely on an indexer every single time. So its main use case is the import part. That's why it's important to have a fast one.
Yeah, that's right. Like, so if you actually just created your Samurai wallet brand new, connected to your Dojo, it doesn't use Fulcrum at all because it's a brand new.
It doesn't need to.
It doesn't need to. And as long as it keeps tracking it, which says there's a tracker in Dojo, it won't need it. But for imports, like and a mnemonic restore counts as an import. So when you restore with your seed words and your passphrase, it will search the indexer, say, is there any activity or balance on this, and find it. And go, okay, yes, it is.
So are you saying that? Just breaking it down here. If I was not running a Tanto, every time that I would say I was using an Electrum server or something like that, every time that I would load up the wallet, that wallet would have to scan to try and find right from the beginning and scan all the way through. Whereas because I'm using the Dojo, it's kind of stored. This isn't going to be the right terminology, but kind of locally on the Dojo.
That's the right terminology. There. That's right.
Wait, fuck it now.
You got it. That's
only taken a few years. Okay, cool. So that means that then it's only going to scan forward from that point for anything new, which means it has to do less work all the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, the indexer, Fulcrum's not scanning. It's just Dojo. It's just Dojo's keeping track at that point. And, basically any transaction that hits the mempool, Dojo's looking at it and saying, do I care about this transaction?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If so, add it to the database.
Yeah, the Dojo architecture, it really is ahead of its time. Like, I think I mentioned that to Laurent recently, like his came up with the architecture and implementation and all that stuff. I'm sure he wasn't alone, but it really is.
He was pretty much alone.
Yeah, it really is amazing because for a wallet that actually uses addresses all the time, if you're these people who don't actually use Bitcoin, who really gives a shit if you have an indexer? You don't. And who gives a shit how it's tracked? Like, you just need a node to be able to tell you the next address, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like what the balance is. But when you start having thousands of addresses because you've been mixing, spending, post mix and all these different things, you're like, you need a proper architecture that is built to sustain that and continuously gets you the correct address and next unused address. So it's the fact that it's, he built it, I think Whirlpool had just come out. They came out almost simultaneously. Right?
Yeah. We waited on Whirlpool till Dojo. We didn't want to release Whirlpool until Dojo was released fully and people had the ability to connect to their own nodes.
I always forget that because I got excited.
You were an early tester of Whirlpool. So you were testing it while Dojo was still being developed and finalized, but that was pretty much all Laurent. He designed it, the architecture of it and everything like that. we had certain requirements, right? We're a mobile wallet, meaning you need to be able to load this thing up fast on the go, not be waiting around hours for something to sync, not be waiting, so there's a reason why it's designed the way it is. It's designed for it to be a spending wallet, like Zelko was saying. And again, the time that we started Bitcoining, it was very common to go to restaurants, cafes, places in person and pay in Bitcoin. And when you're doing that, you need something that's going to load up instantly. Otherwise, you're going to be standing there waiting 10 minutes for something to sync so you can buy like a €2 coffee. It's not going to happen. No one's doing that. And especially like it's great. Okay, you're in a Western nation or have access to 5G. Great. But a lot of our users don't, and they're on edge, and it's slow. They need it to load under those conditions too. So the architecture was very well thought out for the requirements of
Zelko,
our actual users. And that's why when it comes to people actually transacting, Dojo is preferred because it works very, very well.
That's the new push. The new mobile wallet standard. Let your wallet get backed by Dojo. But they won't do it.
I mean, it's just a reality. Like people ask about, for example, bloom filters. Why not? Why don't you use bloom filters? And it's like, okay,
they're trash.
Just ZPub alone on a bloom filter, you're talking like 4 gigs. 1 second, I want to hear where we actually left off. I'm going to listen to this recording real quick.
Every fucking time.
It happens. It's all good.
It ended at bloom filters.
I didn't even hear that.
But we have it in the recording.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Fill me in then.
Hey, I got the audio waves this time though.
Okay, well, that's something.
So we were talking about the requirements for bloom filters, or not requirements, the maxi call for why would Samurai Wallet, or why don't they just use bloom filters and then they don't have to use Samurai's server, or Dojo wouldn't be required for privacy. What's the word? Debunking that myth.
Yeah, well, I was just explaining that a common question, especially from what I call the non-transactors, is why not use bloom filters? Because bloom filters will mean, you don't need to run Samurai Dojo. You could just connect into an existing Electrum server, et cetera, something like that, or Bitcoin full node, not even Electrum server, just a Bitcoin full node. And there's several reasons. One, bloom filters not even turned on by default in Bitcoin Core, so you're only getting served bloom filters from a few select peers. But besides that, a ZPub alone, to download the bloom filters for a ZPub would be like 4 gigs by itself.
Jesus.
So the data requirements of that would be ridiculous for a mobile user, for one. But Samurai Wallet has more than just a ZPub. It has a YPub and it has an XPub. Mm-hmm. And those are far bigger because there's more addresses history to go through. And then you think, well, actually, Samurai has more than just an XPub, YPub, and ZPub. It has at least 2 XPubs because you have a Postmix account. It has 2 YPubs, 2 ZPubs. So, and then there's the Bad Bank, which has a ZPub. So all of these things, you're talking 16, 18 gigs to download from the blockchain every time you open your wallet up that, needs to sync, especially if you haven't opened it up in a few days. It's like the solutions these people come up with, they're not based in reality. They're based in either building up an audience for themselves, getting engagement, trying to sell some sort of vision that they think is realistic, but basically betrays that they've never actually transacted in their life. And let's say, okay, that's not a problem for you because you're on 5G or you have good networking. A lot of our users don't. A lot of our users are on edge, which is slow, and the wallet needs to perform well for them as well. So, the reasons why we created the architecture of Dojo, which is one of the oldest architectural styles, client server, it's proven, it works, and it's fast. It's great for mobile. Just because it's client server doesn't mean it's bad. When you're running the server, there's absolutely no problem. And that's the point.
You can talk all fucking day about this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, there's only a few tools that work and that I recommend to people. A lot of the other stuff, exactly what you said, it's like the conversations are there for engagement. The conversations are there to either pump people's idea of what a price is going to go to, or some sort of marketing jargon bullshit. And people waste so many fucking hours listening to these sort of philosophical bullshit conversations when the reality is, well, there is some software that works that actually are getting pretty simple. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight, is just like, you can have a couple of phones for fuck all money. You can run a node, it works, and you can transact privately, and you don't have to get into this whole bullshit argument that doesn't really make sense and isn't necessary. You can just transact and use Bitcoin how it's supposed to be used, and that's it. The rest of it's bullshit. So it's good to get into these sort of topics.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of it's fluff. Just try using it, then you'll see, try transacting, do transactions, pay for things with Bitcoin. Then you'll see, oh, you do need a piece of middleware. It doesn't just work with Bitcoin Core. You need something in between. Then the people who, like I said, the people who are saying something different, they're just betraying the fact they don't transact. And that's fine. Not everyone's going to transact. Some people only use it for savings. But, if you do that, it's not that it's wrong or bad or anything like that, but you're missing a major part of this thing. You're missing probably, I would say, the most important part of this thing.
Zelko, me and you were talking a lot recently about circular economies and how important.
To say that.
Yo, go on, jump into it then.
Yeah, no, just like that's why the white paper was written. Like, yeah, it can be a savings tool, of course. Like any money should, at least in theory, be capable of being like a savings tool. But Bitcoin obviously has the characteristics to make it good for savings, but it's also meant to be able to operate outside the traditional finances and be able to buy what you want, where you want, whenever you want, and do it in a peer-to-peer fashion directly to the person. So like supporting companies that don't even do that, you should be rethinking it. But also, like, if you're not doing that ever, to be able to buy, I'm not saying you have to go and buy, drugs on the fucking black market or anything, but like, you should be able to just do it. Just buy something. I bought beef jerky from somebody in one of your Telegram groups, Barnes something.
Sorry, fucking don't mention that.
I don't remember his name. It's
Barn Miner.
Dude, his beef jerky was fucking solid.
He's such a shit bloke though that it cancels out.
Oh, do we have someone to add to the shit list?
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
Hey, no, you don't. Shut up. I know he's fucking.
No, I'm joking. He's a awesome. Fucking legend. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's really good. But yeah, like, like doing shit like that. Like if someone is offering me a service or goods directly at me to you, like 90% of the time, I like want to buy it. If it's something that I want or need, like I'm gonna buy it directly from them with Bitcoin, because that's what this is about. No middleman. Like no permission, do what you want with your money, right? So like, and it comes down to using the tools, right? If you want to use it for savings most of the time, sure. But like, if you've never transacted and then come a time period soon where things that you thought were legal or socially acceptable are now no longer socially acceptable or legal.
Like beef jerky.
It's bad for the cows, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It is objectively bad for the cows. Although there is a good argument, there's a libertarian argument that it's responsible for the preservation of the cow. Without
this is true
industry, the cow would probably be extinct by now. But
that's
sorry to derail. So.
Yeah, fucking libertarians. No. Yeah, no. So like, it's really like, use the tools, at least practice, at least do something, so that if you're a person that's never spent Bitcoin, you've only, stacked sats, quote unquote, start doing it. Just get out of the habits of never touching it or too scared to touch it. Just do it. And then it'll change your mind on everything.
It opens your eyes. Game is about. I'll add to that. Oh, go. Sorry, Max.
I was just going to... No, you go first.
Okay. I think I stepped on a joke. My apologies.
No, you didn't. No jokes around here.
Okay. Very serious business. So one of the best ways of obtaining non-KYC Bitcoin is by selling a good or service, right? So when you come across people who are selling goods and services, beef jerky, from this guy, there's a group of people in Iran, I think, that are selling saffron for Bitcoin, whatever it may be. I've seen all sorts of things. You should support those people because you're supporting them by providing them non-KYC Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
And if you are the type that are like, well, that's my coin, why should I give it to you? It's like, well, why haven't you come up with something to earn yourself Bitcoin? Do you actually have zero skills? Is that, is what's your problem? Why can't you figure something out?
You lazy fuck.
Yeah. There are people looking to pay Bitcoin. I retweeted something yesterday. Shane at the Vonu podcast was looking for someone to do translations for him, French and Spanish translations.
Mm-hmm.
And he's paying in Bitcoin, and he's having a hard time finding people. It's like, if you speak two languages, if you speak French and English, or you speak Spanish and English, why aren't you doing that and obtaining non-KYC Bitcoin yourself? So you should absolutely find people, support people, and build an actual fucking economy, because economies don't work if everyone's just, never transacting. It works both ways. You need capital, but you also need spending. You need transacting.
Completely agree. And what I was going to say wasn't a joke. This is a challenge for anyone who's listening, who maybe you might be in that camp and you're thinking, oh, they're my sats, they're my precious, I'm not going to spend them. I'm going to keep them. Generational wealth. It's going to be my great, 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 great grandkids' sats. Well, A, fucking grow up. And B, why don't you try using the tools? Download Samurai, download Sentinel, and make one transaction. And then we're going to run a spaces in, I don't know, a couple of weeks from now. We'll put it out on Twitter and let you know the date, and you can come online and you can either tell us why we're wrong and why it's a shit idea, or you can come on and ask some questions and get more into this and use the tools, because your great, 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 great grandkids are going to have something that's fucking worthless unless people start using it and using it properly.
Fucking damn right.
There's your challenge.
Amen to that.
All right, cool. Well, obviously we could talk forever. I'd really like to do another one, maybe a bit more of a loose conversation in the future with both of you again, but I wanted to keep this one tight. I wanted it to be more specifically around Sentinel, and I think we've done a pretty good job there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's listening, if you have any questions while you're listening, write them down, and when we're going to jump on the spaces, you can ask those questions. Any queries and feedback you can ask, and let's start using it. It's fucking important.
Right on.
Join the spaces, ask your questions. Like, we want to engage with the community. That was kind of the idea behind this, was like not just doing another podcast that just talks to each other and doesn't engage with the people. I think Samurai said it earlier. The community is what kept him around for a guy that's been in well longer than most. Most people in the Bitcoin space don't last this long. I mean, RoninDojo wouldn't be here if we weren't community members of Samurai. So, and we're the same way. So we want to hear from everybody. Come out, ask your questions, shoot the shit, talk shit about me if you want. That's fine.
Definitely.
But I know certain people that will join just to do that. But it's it's all love. So I would love for people to come out and just ask your questions, because that's what we want to do.
So does that mean that they have to unblock me on Twitter if they want to participate in this space? Or?
No, because I'm going to host it. Not many people have blocked me, I don't think, and I haven't blocked anyone. So everyone can join, and then, if they want to come and have a fight, they can do. But what would be much more productive is just to come and actually talk about using the tools, actually talk about making transactions and doing what this thing is here for. If you have any sort of productive feedback, then maybe that's useful. If you just want to shout and be a twat, you'll probably get told to fuck off. But yeah, we want to hear from you regardless.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate both your time, and I look forward to doing the spaces. And yeah, we'll definitely have to do a sort of more longer form pod soon as well. It's been too long, but yeah, it's been really good. I look forward to jumping on and going through all this stuff. I'm going to keep playing around and using it, but I've been very, very impressed so far.
Oh, I'm happy to hear it. We spent it was an update taking a long time, but it was hopefully worth the wait. And now it's really, I think now people are really going to actually start exploring PSBTs, actually start exploring making offline transactions. Whereas before, it's in the realm of theory. It's like, yeah, I got the hardware wallet, and maybe you do a test transaction here and there. But our users are transacting. They're doing it for real. So now we're going to actually start seeing adoption of PSBT thanks to Samurai Wallet, and we're happy to do it.
Awesome.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll speak soon.
Sounds good, brother.
Right, I really hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed recording. I love speaking to these guys, and they're actually building software that is usable and that matters. So thank you to RoninDojo and Samurai Wallet for making such incredible software and hardware. If anyone would like to buy a RoninDojo Tanto, get some money off, and also support the show, you can head over to RoninDojo.com. You can use the code UNGOVERNABLE. It will get you a discount and it will also help support the show. If you'd like to download Sentinel or Samurai, you can do it for free. There's no codes, there's no nothing, it's open source. Just head over to samuraiwallet.com. Please make sure to check out the spaces if you have any questions or feedback on Sentinel, and I will release the date in the coming few days. We just need to organise a time we can all do, but it will be this month. Also, remember to check out ungovernablemisfits.com for all of our articles, podcasts, clothing, and everything else. ungovernablemisfits.com. Catch you on the next one.